So it looks like Defiance will be closing 8 of their high yield ETFs, and this is going to close on Monday, January the 26th, as that will be the last trading day for these ETF funds. Hello, my friends, this is Legend. So the news is out there that Defiance will be closing 8 of their high yield ETF funds, and those will contain PLTY, which is the leveraged long for Palantir, SMCC for SMCY, HOOI for Hood or Robinhood, ETHI for Ethereum, AMDU for AMD, HIMY for HIMS, TRIL for the Defiance $1 Trillion Club. I haven't heard of that one. And LLYZ for the 2X short on Lilly. So these 8 will have their last day of trading on Monday. And if you have these, we'll go over what you'll need to do if you need to do anything. So if you enjoy this type of content, please make sure to hit that like button. So it looks like Defiance is closing about 8 of them here. And if you do have any of these, come Monday, you can go ahead and sell out of what you have, or you can do nothing and it will close them out for you at the end of January the 26th, which is Monday. Now, those 2 options will have 2 different outcomes. The first one is if you do decide to go ahead and if you have these, sell them out on Monday, you'll be able to sell it at the price that you're selling at that moment, lock in those profits or losses, whichever one it may be, and then you'll receive that cash in the time it takes for your broker to return that cash to you, just like you were to sell any other stock. So in my case, if I sell a stock, I would receive that cash the next day, and it would be back in my account ready to get redeployed into whatever I want. But for option 2, if you do decide to hold and do nothing, that's okay, but do note that at the end of Monday, all trading will be halted on these ETFs and they will be liquidated, okay? So that means that basically they will sell out at the NAV and that amount of money will then show up into your account. Now, it sounds just like the first option, but the difference here is if you do allow it to go all the way to the end, to the liquidation part, then you'll have to wait for that to actually clear. And that could take maybe a week before you would actually receive your money for the sale of those shares. So if you would like to get your money and it be available the next day, if that's the time limit that it takes for you to receive your cash whenever you sell a stock, then I would think you would want to go ahead and sell them out on Monday, so that cash would be available just like a normal sale of a stock. Because like I said, if you do wait until the end of Monday, you will have to wait that time period that it will take for them to do the paperwork and actually liquidate all the assets as they go through the process of closing those funds. Now, either way, you will earn whatever that price of the NAV is per share. So it's not closing and you lose all your money. It will just liquidate, or you'll sell it at the NAV price. In both instances, you will receive whatever that NAV is at the time of the share sale. So I just wanted to let you know, as I'm sure some people out there do have some of these. So you'll want to go ahead and either make that sell on Monday, or if you decide not to, that's fine. Just know that it may take a little bit of time before you would actually receive those funds back into your account, as it has to go through that whole process. Now, one of the reasons I believe that these here are closing is because of the net assets available for each of these funds. And let's take a look at that. And here we are. And this is something I just threw together. It's nothing fancy. I've just got the ones that they are closing. And of course, one of the other popular ones is MSTY. And this one is not on the closing list, but these here are. So as you can see, I went ahead and I dropped in what that expense ratio is of each one, and most of them are about 1.51%. And you can see right here, and I think this is one of the reasons why they're closing these funds, as the net assets is very low. Now, 3 million sounds like a lot, but when you're having to pay out your fund managers, any kind of overhead, just running the business, you're not really able to make enough money to cover all those costs. And whenever those assets drop like this, and they're really low, then it really doesn't make sense to keep it going. It's just like any other item at a restaurant. If it's not selling, they're not going to keep it on the menu because that costs money to have that available to keep it stocked and such. So therefore, you drop it from your menu and save on storage, publicity, marketing, and overall overhead for the product. But as you can see here on PLT, there's only 3.17 million assets. SMCC, 2.1, HOOI, 2 million, ETHI, 4.5 million, AMDU, 5.3 million. Now that one's actually the largest one. And as AMD has been going up and it's been moving nicely, it just still does not have much invested into AMDU. So even though AMD is doing well, there's just not enough investment into AMDU to keep it afloat. So it's going on that cut list. And you have HIMY for 2.5, TRIL for 0.9, and LLYZ for 1.5 million. So as you can see, these are all very low. Now, MST is not on the closing list, but if you look at the net assets of MST, it's 22.7 million. And that's actually not that much, as we've seen some of these in the billions, right? So 22.7 million is pretty low, and if that net assets keeps dropping on MST, then Defiance may have to put it too on the cut list. But like I said, it does not mean that it's going to zero and you lose all your money, as closing the fund does not mean that it's going to close shop and everybody loses their money. It's not like that, because on these ones that they are closing, it will close, but it will pay whatever that NAV rate is per share, and that's what you'll receive after the close. So this is not some type of scheme where it's going to close shop and everybody loses all of their money. The only way you would lose all your money is if the NAV went to zero, and that would be the same as any other stock or ETF. If it would go to zero, then $0 times how many ever shares you have is $0, right? At that point, you've lost all your money. But these are not that. These will actually be closing, and they will be paying at the NAV rate at whatever point that you sell it at. And if we look at PLT for the example, and we're now looking at the website for Defiance, and we're looking at PLT. And as you can see, it has the NAV at $12.69. Now, of course, this is the weekend, and come Monday, this could go up or this could go down. So Monday will be a normal, regular trading day. It will just be the last trading day. So whatever that NAV changes to, if you ride it all the way to liquidation at the end of Monday, then that NAV is what you will receive per share that you own for PLT. And of course, all distributions would be paid out, and that would be closed out as well. So I just wanted to let you know that does not mean come Monday or the end of Monday, if you don't sell it, you lose whatever you have invested. Because at the end of Monday, whatever that NAV is, that is what you will receive times how many ever shares. Now, what that price is on that NAV, we'll find out on Monday. But if you do not want to wait and have your funds held up, I would think that you would want to go ahead and make that sell on Monday during market hours, so that you can go ahead and lock in that sell price, and that way your funds will be into your account just as a normal sell would be. Now, what does that mean for other high yield ETFs? Well, on one website, we can see that the SEC has halted all of these new entries for the high yield leveraged ETFs. So they have put a halt on reviewing and approving new high yield ETFs until they feel like they get a handle on things, is my opinion. And as you see right here in the write-up, they provided a warning letter to several of these ETF providers, Direxon, ProShares, Granite Shares, and a few other ETF providers, as it says that some of them were actually trying to open new leveraged ETFs that would track as much as 5 times the performance of the underlying stock. Goodness, right? I mean, 5 times? That is crazy. That is high times 5 risk, right? I mean, that is crazy. That there is 100% of a gamble play, right? Because at this point, whatever that underlying would do, this is going to do it 5 times, right? Now, if it's going up, well, it's great, right? Wonderful. But when it goes down, it doesn't take much before all of a sudden the fund is down to 0, right? At 5 times, it would not take long at all before that fund would just get wrecked. Now, I've said in previous videos where I don't like to really get these leveraged plays for these high yield ETFs. I don't like, the 2x, 3x. I don't even really mess with the 1.5x or anything like that because they're already high risk anyway. And then you want to go and you want to make it a 2x. So that's 2 times the high risk, and that's just too much for me. But that's a personal preference, and everybody has their choice of doing whatever they want to do. But I do not like multiplying that high risk. But as you can see here in this write-up, it looks like they're going to be looking at these funds that are providing about a 2x leverage exposure and above. So any of these 2x and above are starting to get really looked at. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to get cut, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to get cut. But I just wanted to throw that out there, as it does look like they're looking at these leveraged ETFs, and currently they're looking at that 2x leveraged exposure. But if we go back to the Defiance here, whether these are over 1x, 2x, or whatever these are at, the net assets for these are just not enough for them to make enough money to keep it afloat. So in my opinion, these are closing just due to lack of interest in the Defiance funds for these ticker symbols. And if you look at their other ETFs, even just MSTY, it's not doing too well either. So you definitely need to keep an eye on the net assets, as you do need it to be a large enough amount so that the fund manager is making enough money to cover all their expenses. Because if they can't cover their expenses, they're not going to keep that product, and that product will just get cut. But for instance, one that I do have with YMAX, which is ULTY or ULTY, we slide down here to the net assets and it's 1.23 billion. Okay, so it's still got a good amount in it. There's still enough there for it to be profitable for them. But if this was dropping down and this was in the 20 million, and that's with an M, then you may need to start looking around and maybe trying to find your exit point. As when these get low in the double digit of the million, you may want to start thinking about an exit point. But of course, this is not financial advice. You should reach out to an actual financial advisor to find out what the best strategy is for you, as I'm just some guy on YouTube talking about the funds that I do have and possible funds that I know others do have. And I think that helps to drive home my point of why I'm tracking that real price per share, because if that ever did happen and say NVDY or PLTY with YMAX actually decided to close, would I be making money at that point, or am I going to be losing money? And as you can see, out of a total of 15 that I have with YMAX, Defiance, and Round Hill, I only have 1, 2, 3 red ones. out of 15. And the ones that are red are not down by much. WY's down by 5%, ULTY is down 0.5%, and CONY is the one that's down the most, and it's down 14%. But that's why I do track that, so that I can keep track of where I'm at, if I'm actually profitable or not. And if I'm not, then I need to decide, am I going to fight to keep that and to try to work that price down? Or do I need to cut my loss and get out? And currently on CONY, I am fighting to bring down my real price per share so that I can flip this red on CONY to a green. Now that's not guaranteed to happen, but that is my plan. I'm very close to doing that on ULTY and on WY. Both of those, I think I can get those flipped over to green, but CONY is going to be a little tougher, and we'll see going forward what my plan is. But currently, I am still purchasing to help lower that real price per share. And of course, that does mean that if I were to sell out of all of these ETFs, I would make $18,500 selling at the current price of all of these ETFs that I do have, including the ones that I've already sold. So at the present moment, I am okay with where I sit. But if things started changing too much, then I know from my spreadsheet that I can get out of all of these and still come out with over $18,000 extra in my pocket from when I started. So of course, if you would like to be able to track your own adjusted price per share or your real price per share, which is what I like to call it, then come on over to the Discord. The link will be down in the pinned comments and in the description below, where you can join my Discord, and that's where you'll find a link to get this spreadsheet so that you can start tracking your ETFs, finding out where you're at, and get a better idea should you continue to fight to get that price down below the current market price, or do you go ahead, cut your loss, and move on. And that's a choice that each person has to make. No one can make it for you. You have to decide for yourself. And of course, always reach out to a financial advisor for that information to help you decide if you need to. So anyway, I just wanted to let everybody know that there are some Defiance funds that are closing, and there are a total of 8 of those, and those funds will close at the end of January the 26th of 2026. So if you want to go ahead and close those out on Monday, make sure you do that. If not, they'll get closed for you at the end of Monday. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button and smash the like button, as it would be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.